263 is an organization that was birthed out of my experience with mental health illness. I'm a mother of 2 amazing daughters, and I am a working mother as well. I have a great village around me, and I'm currently in treatment and on medication. So my personal experience with mental health started when I was about 25 years old. This was about 18 years ago when I was diagnosed with MDD, which is a major depressive disorder. A lot of things in my life were not going correctly. I was in an abusive relationship, and it contributed to my diagnosis. Having depression has affected my life in many ways, but I am grateful to say that I am in therapy at the moment and having the appropriate medication to help me through the situations in my life. It's affected me in terms of my family and the way that they understand mental health, because as we probably know as Zimbabweans, having a mental health disorder is not something that you speak about. There's a lot of stigma around it. So it took quite a while for them to accept the fact that I do have a mental health issue, and for them to jump on board and be supportive to me. The other way it's affected my life is, as a single mother, sometimes it's really hard to take care of 2 kids while trying to maintain, keep your wits about you, keep the depression at bay so that your kids are healthy and happy all the time. There are certain days that I go through where I put on my happy face. It's not always easy, but sometimes I do need to do that. Because sometimes also waking up with a positive attitude helps me get through the day. Having a mental health issue has also affected my life on a social platform. Because of my depression, I also suffer from social anxiety sometimes. So me actually being on this video, doing this video has taken a lot for me to sit here and tell my story. But I'm glad that I am doing it. I'm not good with crowds. I'm not good with parties, and it's a result of my mental health issue. But there are certain tricks that I have accumulated as experience through the years to help me cope with social issues. But it definitely is one of the areas in my life that's been affected. So the challenges I do face on a daily basis, sometimes when my depression is really bad, getting up in the morning and basic self-care is a problem. There are days where I don't even have the energy to get out of bed, don't even have the energy to brush my teeth or take a bath. These are the realities of living with major depressive disorder. There are good days and there are bad days. On the bad days, the simple things like making a cup of tea, eating, talking to other people, being in other people's company is a huge issue, and it's a big ask for me during those days. It also affects me in terms of my work sometimes, where my focus is not, at 100%. But it comes with the depression as well. It's a byproduct of having depression. On the day-to-day challenges of coping with depression, I think one of the major issues for me has been exercising and eating healthy. Some people tackle this issue in different ways. Some people with depression don't eat at all, and some people with depression like me, they tend to eat a lot and therefore we gain a lot of weight. So exercising has actually been one of the things that on a day-to-day basis I find really hard to do. But I am grateful for this mental health week, where the theme is moving more for your mental health. It's an amazing theme that's actually helped me to start exercising, even if it's for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes a day. But definitely exercising and good health are, when it does come to depression, those are pretty hard to take care of. When we talk about the misconceptions that come with having mental health issues, there are a couple that I would like to address. I think having been mentally ill in the UK and having been mentally ill in Zimbabwe, there's a really huge difference. I've noticed that in my mother country, unfortunately, there's still a lot of taboo when it comes to being open about your mental health issues. And I think one of the things that consistently comes through is people telling us that mental health issues are a white people problem, or that, Black people don't experience mental health. For them, it's usually a case of either kuroiwa, or someone has, placed some bad spirit or omen around you, but that's not the case. And I'm hoping that as we pursue Mental Health 263, this is one of the major misconceptions that we'd like to do away with. I think the other issue that, the other misconception is that people with anxiety should, snap out of whatever it is that they're going through. When they're having an anxiety attack or having, going through anxious days. The lack of understanding, I think, is one of the things that, affects us on a day-to-day basis, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's at our churches, in our social groups. Having a mental health issue is not easily accepted as opposed to somebody who says, I have diabetes or I have been diagnosed with cancer. Unfortunately, mental health is the silent killer, because we don't show it on the exterior. It's always on the inside, and sometimes getting that thing that is within us out and telling people or explaining to people what we're going through is not only easy, but it also doesn't come out well in the end, where people are accepting of what we're going through. So I'm actually really grateful. I think I'm one of the people who is blessed. Despite the fact that I have mental health issues, I have a very, very strong support structure. My family is very supportive of me, and that's one of the ways that I cope with the things that I go through. I always have somebody to say, to speak to, and on the days that are really bad, I have somebody that I can speak to and say, this is what's going on with me, and actually get the help that I need, whether it's taking care of the kids or, making sure that I manage the day in a more effective way. The other coping mechanism that I do have is that I go for therapy. I go for therapy once every 2 weeks, and talk therapy is something that here in Zimbabwe we don't really put a lot of emphasis on, but it's actually really important. When you bottle your emotions and you don't talk about them, they become larger than life. But by going to therapy, you get to talk about your issues in a very open platform with someone who is understanding and who is, educated enough to know how to help you deal with circumstances in your life. So the other coping mechanism that I do have is that I make sure that I see my psychiatrist often. This helps in maintaining the medication that I am on to make sure that it is helping me as best as it can. And sometimes, during the course of these sessions, you realize that either medication needs to be changed or it needs to be lowered, or it needs to be increased, depending on what my depression is dictating at that time. So that's a really, really huge coping mechanism for me, because making sure that somebody knows how healthy my mind is helps me to keep it healthy as well, and helps me to be able to live a free life and a better life. So some of the barriers that I've experienced while trying to get assistance for my mental health issues was, I think initially my family and my social circle, because they were not knowledgeable enough to understand what I was going through at the time and understand fully the type of help that I needed and how urgent it was. So that was one of the barriers. But when I look back on the time that I was institutionalized at Salum Gabe, the one thing I did realize is that because the facilities are not enough, quite a number of people are either told to go home, where the support structure doesn't allow them to have the assistance that they need. I'm grateful for the staff at Salum Gabe, because while I was there, I can say without a doubt that they gave me the help that I needed. They assisted me in ways very quickly. They helped me in a swift way, considering at the time that I was actually going through some suicidal thoughts. So I'm grateful for them. But I think the barriers for us as Zimbabweans is basically having the facilities. There aren't enough beds in Zimbabwe for people with mental health issues, and that's one thing that I think we should work towards as a country to rectify. I did realize that some of the barriers that we experience as people with mental health issues is not having enough resources, when we are either inpatient or outpatient. Let me clarify on that. My experience at Salum Gabe, I did realize that they don't have enough staff, they don't have enough food, and they didn't have enough, they didn't put enough time in terms of making sure that all the patients were catered for. One instance could be the fact that patients were only seen on Tuesdays and Thursdays. In as much as I understand that in terms of resources, they needed to do it that way, but what happens to someone who gets sick on a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday or a Sunday? Those are really huge barriers, because mental health is just that. You never know when things are going to get bad, or you never know when you are going to have a dip in your depression, or you're going to have a manic episode if you're bipolar. And these are things that we need to take into account when trying to make sure that we make mental health a priority and accessible to everybody. So one of the ways that I attend to my self-care is actually a phrase that I adopted from one of my really, really close friends called Wadzanai Garwe. So Wadzanai Garwe says the best way for you to sort of navigate your self-care is to use the ABC, which she calls attend to your basic needs with care. This means sometimes saying no to situations that will either put you in a more depressive state or put you in a position of anxiety. She also says that sometimes saying no is healthier than saying yes. And so making sure that you find yourself, if you do have mental health issues, try and find yourself in situations that are helpful and that are uplifting to you, and have the courage to not feel like you are missing out on situations that will affect you negatively. I think the other thing that sort of helps me, in my self-care process is the fact that I have trusted God so much in all of the situations that I have been through. Ever since my diagnosis and before that, I put my trust in God to lead me, on a day-to-day basis. I make sure that the first thing I do every morning is to take my 20 minutes and speak to God and let Him know what I'm going through, let Him know how I feel about the day that's coming, and just hope against hope that He'll give me the strength to go through it. And more often than not, He really does. There's a couple of things that I wish people understood about people who are living with mental health issues. The first one being that people with mental health issues will have their good days and they will have their bad days. And it's not something that we can control. It's only something that we can manage. But the one thing I do wish people would know is that it's not an on and off switch. You can't stop feeling depressed. You can't stop feeling anxious. But you just have to figure out how to manage it. And the best way for us is to have people around us who are understanding of that. I think the other thing that I wish people would understand is that people with mental health issues are not lazy. Someone who spends the entire day in bed with the curtains closed and in the dark is not a lazy person. They are going through things that are so deep in their, mental, just things. They are going through things that are so deep that we don't have the capacity to fathom how heartbreaking, that situation is for them. I think I also wish that people would welcome talking openly about mental health issues so that it's not a taboo issue or taboo subject anymore. I wish there was more open conversations that could be had. And that would be a huge step in making sure that people with mental health issues are supported in the way that they need to be. So as the founder of Mental Health 263, I would like to give a shout out to my team because they are an amazing bunch of people and doing amazing work in terms of making sure that we bridge the gap, the mental health issue gap in Zimbabwe. We have projects that we want to undertake to make sure that information is disseminated to everybody in Zimbabwe, not just locally, but also in the rural areas. Our goal as an organization is to make sure that everybody has the information that they need in order to manage their mental health care issues intelligently and with the correct resources and with the correct information. We are happy that we are able to, come into this space and create a safe space for people with mental health issues where we discuss various matters and at the same time giving them the courage to live with their mental health issues on a day-to-day basis.